welcome back to the Cyclone Fanatic pregame show. I'm your host, Leah Nelson in the Wild Rose Casino studio. I'm going to have a special guest today because Chris and Bloom are doing a fun little breakdown of the whole Iowa State, Arizona State game, and they're going to go really in depth. And Chris was showing too much face on these podcast shows, so he wanted to have a different guest. But before I introduce him, let's thank a few of our sponsors. We'll start off with Fairway Meat Market. They are a great sponsor. They've been a supporter of Cyclone Fanatic for a really long time. Make sure you head over there, grab your meat, and cook it up for the game while you watch on Saturday. Then we've got our friends over at McFarland, Dr. Wormy, Dr. Greenwald. They were just on a podcast, I think, earlier this week, so that's pretty awesome. Doctors who can talk ball, I guess, so that's pretty awesome. And then our friends over at Centurion Stone. Amazing fireplace people. I've heard a couple of our listeners have actually reached out to them and have gotten some work done with Centurion Stone. That's pretty awesome. And then Aer Lingus College Football Classic. If you didn't get enough of Iowa State and Kansas State, well, you can book your trip for next year to watch them play in Dublin, Ireland, which is pretty awesome. I know that's on my Christmas list, so I'm really excited for that game. So make sure you visit cyclones2ireland.com. That's cyclones, the number 2, Ireland.com. All right, let's bring in our special guest, Jeff, which way you are. Jeff Woody.
Well, hello.
Hello. I mean, you're not a special guest to our shows, but you're a special guest to the pregame show. You haven't been on with me, have you?
I have not. No.
Yeah, just halftime and postgame, which everyone loves you. So we're really excited to have you on, break down this whole Iowa State, Arizona State game. We've got a lot to talk about, so we'll just kind of get right into it. First question, usually I ask Chris kind of what we can expect from Arizona State. So if you want to just give me a couple like little tiny nuggets of what fans can expect if they've never watched an Arizona State game.
Yeah, so what Iowa State fans can expect to see is, so let's go offense and defense. So there's two kind of things, two real like main focus points. So overall, before we get to those, Arizona State and Kansas State are very similar statistically with two main differences. So offense and defense, they are almost like, if you look at defensive rankings for like rush, pass, and scoring, and on both sides of the ball, they're almost next to each other in all of them. So you're going to see a team that's really similar stylistically to a team like Kansas State as far as what they want to do and how well they do it. The two main differences between Kansas State and Arizona State is that Kansas State's special teams are a lot better. I would say though, Kansas State's turnover margin is way worse. So it's basically Kansas State, but they turn the ball over less, but their special teams aren't as good. But the way they go about doing things is a little bit differently. So Arizona State, everything on their offense, when Arizona State's on offense, Iowa State's on defense, everything they do runs through Cam Scadaboo. He is a dude, and he is a super physical runner. He is really good at seeing and creating things that shouldn't be there, that he just forces to be there. Think David Montgomery. Like that, the two guys that kind of come to mind are David Montgomery and Marshawn Lynch as far as running style, where they're super agile, but they're not guys that once you break into the open field, they're going to run away. But if you hit them, there's got to be 3 dudes that hit him to get him down. So Scadaboo is where they focus everything through, and they're really good at time of possession on offense. Iowa State is a little better statistically, but like close enough that it's basically, you can tell that they want to do the same thing on offense that Iowa State does, which is possess the ball, make it a low possession game, and just be more physical than you, and basically dare you to, like, you're going to have to tackle Cam Scadaboo and their backups, which are all super physical runners too. You're going to have to tackle them 50 times a game. Can you do that across the entire width of the game? So offensively, everything runs through Scadaboo, but it's a big difference this week than what Arizona State has been, because Jordan Tyson is their primary wide receiver. He is the only guy that has more than 400 receiving yards in the entire season that's not Cam Scadaboo. I think Cam Scadaboo's got like 400 and some change. But he had 1,100 yards coming into this week. He's not playing. And the reason why that's a big deal when Arizona State is on offense and Iowa State's on defense is with him in the game, because you have to spend so much attention on Scadaboo, you get a lot of, the reason why he has so much yards is because he thrives in one-on-one environments, because Bo Freeler would have to play down in the run game, and Malik Verdun or Tashawn James would have to play down in the running game, and you're basically one-on-one, and you just got to hope that you can hold up there. Well, with him not there, Iowa State should have the player advantage in the secondary, that they could focus more on stopping the run and not, I wouldn't say like sell out, but you can be a lot less cognizant of, like, I trust, if I'm Freeler, I trust Porter and Purchase and Williams to handle their one-on-ones against Arizona State's 2, 3, and 4 wide receivers and their tight ends more than I would trust them to handle a one-on-one with Jordan Tyson. So that's a big deal that he's not there schematically. So Iowa State should have an advantage to be able to focus more on any run action that Cam Scadaboo has. Now, the flip side, what can Iowa State fans expect from Arizona State's defense is it's like the 4-2-5 version of Iowa State, in that very rarely do you see Arizona State bring pressure in the same way that you very rarely see Iowa State bring pressure. That doesn't mean they don't. That just means that they're really selective with when they do that. And they play a lot of zone, like Iowa State plays a lot of zone, and they dare you to have a 12-play drive that takes 6.5 minutes and that you don't screw up somewhere along the way. And that's where Iowa State thrives in their defense, is that, you look at like against Kansas State. Avery Johnson, at some point, you're going to make a mistake. If we make you have a 12-play drive, you're going to fumble at some point, or you're going to throw an interception, or you're going to get called for holding. And that's really what Arizona State does. So Iowa State and Arizona State have similar goals. They just go about doing it differently. So it's a 4-2-5 zone first defense that's really into preventing big plays. And then on offense, everything runs through Scadaboo. And without Tyson, they're going to have to get a lot of help from kind of a surrounding supporting cast of characters that Iowa State should have an advantage there.
So how does Iowa State stop this crazy run game when they've struggled in the past on defense?
I would say struggled. It's a bit of a misnomer that Iowa State has struggled in the running game, especially, struggle against running quarterbacks.
Right.
I mentioned that Arizona State and Kansas State are very similar statistically. Well, Iowa State played Kansas State recently with a running quarterback and DJ Giddens, which didn't really have much of an impact in the game against Iowa State. Well, why? Between Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens versus Devin Neal and Jalen Daniels, like why was there such a difference in those two pairs compared against this Iowa State defense? It's because Will McLaughlin and Cooper Ebel and Jack Sadowski are all healthy. And you have 3 healthy, experienced linebackers that actually know where to be in the defense. And so those teams that Iowa State has played, and UCF is another one where they're playing without anybody. They're playing with a bunch of backup linebackers. And what that does against really good running attacks, especially those like UCF and Cincinnati and Kansas that have good quarterback run games, which Arizona State does, is if you're not assignment sound, meaning that your linebacker's supposed to be in the B gap, he's not. That is not assignment sound. You're not where you're supposed to be. With young linebackers and with guys like Rylan Barnes, who, God love him, if he was not there, Iowa State would be in a way worse position, but he hasn't played since Kansas pretty much because he was not assignment sound once you started throwing some noise at him. For the last 3 weeks, with Will McLaughlin, with Cooper Ebel, with Jack Sadowski, and then you can spot a couple guys here or there. Like you can put a 44, a Jacob Ellis. You can put 44 out there a couple times, and you can put younger guys out there a couple times. So they've struggled against the run when they've been hurt. Kansas State and Arizona State have a similar attacking style in that you need to get Giddens on the ground before he gets into the open field. Because if DJ Giddens has the chance to open up and run, you're screwed. Scadaboo is similar to that, but it's different in that Giddens is a home run threat who is physical. Cam Scadaboo, as my Kicking It co-host, calls him a rhino. Like he is... If you've seen Jumanji, like that rhino that's just knocking stuff off the walls, that's trying to tackle Cam Scadaboo. So as far as assignment soundness is concerned, the first guy, you're not probably going to bring him down on the first contact, but you have to stop his forward momentum to give your buddies time to get there. So he doesn't get that negative 1 yard play turn into a 6 yard play because he's just dragging somebody, which that's what Arizona State is really good at. So how to stop their running game is just be assignment sound. Like it sounds unsexy, but it's the same stuff that worked against Kansas State that's going to need to work against Arizona State, is be in the right spot and wrap up and tackle when you get the chance. And then I think the last thing on the running game is to level set with Iowa State fans. They're good at running the ball. Like, I don't expect to hold this team to like 83 yards rushing. Like anything 170 or less, you can say like, hey, good job. Because this is a really dynamic team with really good runnings, or with really good runners and a quarterback that can scramble. Like, the level setting in that there are going to be big plays. There are going to be times when someone misses a tackle. There's going to be times when Cam Scadaboo should be dead to rights, gets 9 yards. Like, those things will happen. But if you can contain that and have him have 101 yards on 31 carries, win. That's what you want to be able to make Leavitt, the quarterback, make him throw, treat him like Avery Johnson, and you should end up getting some mistakes, even though he's not a big turnover guy.
So last time Iowa State played in a conference championship, 2020, midst COVID. So obviously this is a lot of pressure for the guys that even were still around, or the guys that have never played in a conference championship. Do you think this amount of pressure is going to affect the way certain players come out on Saturday?
If pressure was a problem for this team,
right,
they would have already cracked.
That's what I'm saying. So
the Utah game, must win. There are so many mistakes that, whether they're forced mistakes or unforced errors, if pressure would have cracked Iowa State, they wouldn't have had that game-winning drive where you get a halfback pass that can win the game. Or against UCF, you throw 2 pick sixes, you're down a zillion points. Or against Iowa, you're at Kinnick Stadium, you're down to 27 seconds left, you need to get in field goal position. If pressure bothered these guys, if they concerned themselves with it, then I would be much more concerned coming into the game than I would be with this group, because they've shown, what do we got to do? My 1/11th on each play, every cliche that every coach says, my 1/11th, this play, or one game at a time, like that kind of thing. They really do a good job of doing that. And Arizona State hasn't been in a championship game of any sort in a while. And I think a lot of the excitement and the riding the wave is a lot more present in Kenny Dillingham's team than it is with Iowa State, to good and bad. Like, in softball, second hitter gets a double, third hitter, triple, fourth hitter blasts the ball off the wall. Like, the momentum can build, but a team that rides that wave, fifth hitter strikes out, sixth hitter strikes out, seventh hitter, well, these first 2 strike out. Well, now I can't strike out and then strike. And they tend to ride momentum waves a lot more than Iowa State does. So you're going to see some high highs, but you're also going to see some low lows with Arizona State, just because of this being a new environment. And they probably will feel pressure more than Iowa State will. But I think it's just going to be a fun matchup to watch, kind of personalities of each program.
I'm getting nervous, but I'm really excited. Okay, last question, because before our score prediction, because I can't really ask Chris this, but from your perspective, from your experience, is it hard going from playing outside in the cold weather to go and play inside?
Man, no, it's so easy. It's so much better.
So much better, right?
Much better.
It reminds me of softball, of like having to practice in like the football facility, freezing cold because we'd go in and out, and then go into play in like Texas or California. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm playing my best softball I've ever
so
played.
Nice. Yeah, the difference is Iowa State practices indoors, so it's not like they're not used to practicing on turf. But the difference is you're going to be warmer, so you're going to be able to stay warmer longer. The quarterback's hands get less clammy. Like, when a lot of the kind of the offness of both Avery Johnson and Rocco Becht on the last game they played. So the fact that like your hands get clammy, and like gripping the ball and throwing the ball is harder when it's colder. Cutting is harder when the ground is harder. Well, this is back to like even playing field. Everyone gets to play warm. The ball's going to be gripped where you want it to. Your gloves are going to tack just like you want it to. You don't have to wear 16 layers. Like it's so much easier to play in a dome. But I don't know. To me, it takes any element of like excuses off the field. Well, they have a grass field, or it's cold up there, and we didn't. No, you're playing in a dome on turf. Like, whoever wins deserves to win. There you go.
I love it. So what's your score prediction?
To me, this will come down not necessarily to turnovers, because neither team is prone to them much. So I wouldn't expect a lot of turnovers from one side or the other. But what I do think is going to matter is Iowa State's special teams have shown the potential to be much, much better than Arizona State's special teams. And we talked about this after the Utah game on the other side, where Iowa State's special teams were bad. They've been good more than they've been bad. Arizona State's have been bad more than they've been good. So hidden yards is going to be a big deal in this. So like, how do you keep track of hidden yards, or even just like a rough track? Where do Iowa State's drives start? And how much pressure does Arizona State's defense feel because of that? So their punter, freshman, pretty inconsistent. Their kicker, they literally 6 weeks ago had kicker tryouts. Like, they don't trust their kicker, so they're going to have to go for it a lot more. They're going to have to, it's 4th and 3, and they might have to go for it. And they're going to miss a couple of those and give Iowa State the ball on further shorter fields. So don't look at yards, like offensive total yards, as an indicator of how the game is going. See where the drives start and how much pressure what should be Arizona State's defense is under consistently throughout the game. Because when you're under that kind of pressure, little mistakes get bigger, because a 10-yard run from the 10 is a touchdown. A 10-yard run from the -20 is just a 10-yard run. So to me, I think the special teams make a big difference in this, in what is otherwise a pretty evenly played game. I think low possession, 24-17 kind of, I'm going to take Iowa State, because I think Tyson not being there keeps an explosiveness down on the Arizona State team. But I don't know, this one, Arizona State to me feels like they belong in the Big 12. Like, as far as like a culture thing, like,
yep.
I could see kind of slapping hands, or like, shoulder bump, chest bumping somebody from Arizona State, being like, hey, I got you. Like, that feels like a they belong.
I love it. I had 27-24. Usually I have Iowa State blowing everyone out, but I still have them like winning, but it's a little bit of a closer gap.
Just a little bit of nerves. But if they stop the run and they win special teams by what I think they can win special teams by, this game should go in Iowa State's favor. But it's two really good teams, two fun teams. I don't know. Cherish the fact that this is a championship game, the second championship game in 4 years.
Exactly.
Like, come on now. How much better could it get?
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Jeff. Really happy to have you on. You guys can tune back in for Chris and I'm pretty sure, for a halftime and post-game show on Saturday. We're so excited. And thanks again to all of our sponsors. We've got Fairway, McFarland, Centurion Stone, and Aer Lingus College Football Classic. So go Cyclones.